See. Hello, everyone, and welcome in to our South Carolina American Revolution Sestercentennial Commission grant reviewers overview. I really appreciate everybody who is here. We have a lot to cover today, but we're going to try to zoom through it. I want to make sure I'm sharing my correct screen and everybody see the PowerPoint.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Okay. So, why are we celebrating? Well, the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution is upon us. The Declaration of Independence will be the crescendo of that this summer. And we had in South Carolina more battles and skirmishes than any other state except for New Jersey. 400 plus skirmishes, battles, and bloodshed during the American Revolution. So they were trying to reclaim that place in history and tell this amazing founding story. So when is everybody ask when's the anniversary? Well, it's right now. We started in 2019, officially 2020 to 2033 are the years of the commission is trying to focus on. That's that 1770, which is the Boston Massacre, the 1783, which is the treaties of Paris. So that is our revolutionary era that we're really focusing on. Since the initial grant program was started in 21. We have given out 275 grants and over $10 million across the state. And there's kind of an overview of where all the money has gone. And poor Hampton County. If anybody knows anybody in Hampton County, please let us know. We need to get some things going with their committee down there. This is our structure, just kind of as an overview. We are sunsetting our County 250 organizing grants. I don't even think Parina knows that yet, but we will be sunsetting our organizing grants this year. This was really just to kind of spin up the committees. We now have officially we have a committee in every county, some stronger than others, but we are going to sunset that grant this year, but you may see a few of those. Mostly y'all will be assigned the monthly, major, and premier projects. Now, how do we define that? The monthly grants are up through $15,000. So it's really by an amount. It doesn't mean you get a monthly stipend. It just means that every month we review these grants. They have a new deadline every month. So the next one is actually Monday on March the 2nd, and then April 1st, May 1st, and June 1st. All these are at 3 o'clock, those deadlines. And a match is not required. So when you go to do reviews on these, match is not required, although the commission really loves partnerships and any cost share, including in kind, that they can demonstrate on these. And then we have major grants. These are the $15,001 up to $125,000. These are reviewed quarterly, so we only have 2 more cycles of this fiscal year. One will be a March 26th deadline, and one is a June 26th deadline. There is a 20% of the total budget match or cost share required for these. So that should be demonstrated in their budget when you go to look at their budgets. And then we have the premier projects that are 125,000 and above. And again, those are also reviewed quarterly. These require a 25% of total budget, not 25% of ask, 25% of total budget should be demonstrated for those. Now, once you get into those 3 funding opportunities, there are several grant types. We actually started with these as our funding opportunities, and we morphed things as we learned how people were applying. But we still kept these grant types, and we're going to quickly run through these. We have the museum and library style exhibit grants. So these are more, and this doesn't have to be inside a museum. It could be, at Walmart, as long as they have permission to put it there and have a memorandum of understanding with Walmart, they could put one there. This is more of an exhibit style grant. We have local activity grants, and these can be everything from an event, a lecture series, there's such a large range of things that this could fall under. We have historic tourism and marketing grant. So this is more like your collateral. I'm going to buy a tablecloth, and I'm going to buy social media ads, and I'm going to buy handouts, rack cards to send to the welcome centers, those kinds of things. So that's the historic tourism and marketing grant. Research, publication, genealogy, and digitization grants. And this under this one, individuals may apply for this grant. So that is a little difference about these. So keep that in mind. Then we have education grants, and this is one of our primary goals is education, signage and marker grants. These are, of course, interpretive signs, state historic markers, marking 18th century roads. Those all fall under, even directional signs for a park would work under that category. And then we have site grants. So both planning, acquisition, development, and renovation, as long as it's not deferred maintenance. And we do not build new buildings. We do allow some renovations under this policy, but we're very strict on these site grants as they get to be pretty large amounts. So one of the things to keep in mind is we mentioned earlier 1770 to 1783. That is really the focus of the commission. That being said, we have now through May, we will accept grants that fall under these Carolina Days categories. So what is Carolina Day? So on June the 28th of 1776, we beat back the British Navy from Fort Sullivan, later Fort Moultrie. And that was a huge deal. It kept them out of Charleston for another 4 years. It was the first time the British Navy had been beaten in like 200 years. It was a major deal. And they started celebrating the next year in 1777 what they called Carolina Day. Now, traditionally, this has been celebrated in Charleston only. We're trying to make it statewide, and we're giving it a more general overview. So this is going to be celebrate your South Carolina roots, things made in South Carolina or America, this more generic patriotic events. Those fall are under these categories. And I'm going to share this with you so you can look at it more carefully. I do want you to note that the event in their application does not have to happen on this exact date. This was really just a menu to give people a jumping off point. We sent this to all the counties to kind of give them a way to start thinking about planning for this big summer. So it doesn't have to be on that exact date as long as the event happens during the summer of 26. They can apply under one of these menu items. So Made in Carolina or Carolina Kids, they could put that under their second answer on the narrative that asks them about the American Revolution. They could instead write about the menu item on this menu. I will say that the commission has wanted to focus still on 1770 to 1783. They like it, so it should get extra points if it has that tie still or a loop back to the American Revolution, but it is eligible if it falls under one of these categories. And again, we have just a few more cycles to go with this. The next one will be the final monthly grant that you can apply under Carolina Days will be May 1st deadline. And the final major and premier project, we got one more cycle under the Carolina Days, and that's March 26th. So do keep that in mind as we go to look at that section. So what do you need to do before you start reviewing? So participate in your orientation session, which you're doing right now or watching this recording. You also need to review the guidelines, and we're going to send you a follow-up sheet that walks you through the process of doing your review, and it's going to have these matrix here that will show you kind of an idea of what would be a 2 for this answer, what would be a 5 for this answer. So there's an evaluation criteria and scoring matrix included in that. Hopefully everybody has now registered in Discover SC Web Grants. If you have not, we will walk through that in just a moment. Also, complete and return your conflict of interest policy form. This just basically says that I will let us know that I'll let SC250 know if I have a conflict with any of the grants that I'm assigned to. And this will be sent by Adobe Sign. I'm sorry I did not get it out before this screening, but I will send it out shortly to you. The other thing to do is go ahead and watch for emails under this SCPRT grants at mail.webgrantscloud.com. So you might want to put that in your contacts so that it doesn't go into spam. And you'll see that it does show when the review is due. So keep that in mind. So look for those. And let's talk about the timeline for reviewing. So we have the next cycles that are coming up. We have cycle 8, which is the March cycle. We have monthly grant deadline on March 2nd, which is Monday. Then we have major and premier on deadline on March 26th. Because so many of these people are wanting to do things this summer, we're trying to move as quickly as possible. So we are giving you, we used to give 2 weeks. We're down, we're asking if you don't mind, if you can do these reviews in a week. So we'll give you a week to complete them. So the monthly deadline will be March 9th. Major and premier, you get a little longer. April 2nd will be the deadline on the major and premier. And the other reason we're trying to do that is we're trying to prep for the April executive committee meeting for these major grants that are under $50,000. We can actually put them before the executive committee and they can approve them to help facilitate moving the cycles forward. The due diligence and executive team review happens in March, and then awards monthly. March 19th is what we're looking at for the monthly cycle, unless it goes into due diligence. Major review, again, if it's less than or equal to $50,000, we will put that before the executive committee on April 14th. Major, those over 50,000 and the premier projects will have to go before the full commission on May 15th. Then we have cycle 9 that's also coming up. That'll be the April one, April 1st. Again, a week there to review. April 9th, the deadline. There'll be some due diligence, and then hopefully we'll be able to award most of those on April 17th. We will have a 10th and an 11th review cycle this fiscal year for May and June, and they go into similar kind of patterns. When you get that email, again, it will tell you what your deadline is when you get a review notice from the system. All right, so let's talk about some of the priorities. So SC250 Commission is very, again, interested in 1770 to 1783, or now through that May 1st deadline for monthly grants, Carolina Days menu items also make you eligible. Do they have buy-in from their local county 250 committee? You don't have to have an award, like a support letter from your county 250, but you do need to have at least notified your county 250 committee if you're an applicant. And there should be some documentation of that on the support documents page. Demonstrate partnerships and matching funds. As we get squeezed tighter and tighter with our budget, we're trying to leverage as many partnerships as possible, so look for that. Do they have a clear budget and a thought out project plan? What kind of impact or longevity have they demonstrated? So those are some of the priorities for reviewers. And now it is demo time. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if I can share does anybody have any questions before I jump in? I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's see. Anybody want to unmute yourself and ask a question? And Parina is also online. Parina Patel is our grants assistant, and she can answer a lot of those too. If you want to put something in chat, she can answer those, or just you can unmute yourself right now and jump right in.
Yes. About how many grants will each of us have, or what kind of grant load can we expect?
Great question. So we don't know how many are coming in. So that's the challenge. And I was telling them earlier, we used to just divide people up by like your skill set. So if you were someone who was used to writing papers, you would be under the publication and research group. But what I've decided to do, we've had so many applications come in for the local activities grant type that I want to spread the love a little bit. So I'm going to try to create 3 teams and rotate you guys so you don't have to do them every month. So you may be assigned to monthly grants or major and premier projects, or it just depends on which cycle I'm rotating you through. So that's kind of so you may not get any for a little bit. So just stand by, look for those emails to come, and we'll kind of try to notify everybody when we get those cycles, those teams pulled together, and separated out. Does that help? Because I don't have a definitive answer, not knowing how many grants are going to come in, how many applications are going to come in. All right. Can everybody see my email here? Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yes.
Unless anybody else has a question before we go into our demo. You all good? All right, awesome. So this is again an example of an email that was sent to me. It tells you the name of the application, the number of the application. This this can be helpful to know that. So you might want to look at that. Also, the review is due on March the 3rd. So that tells me when I have to get it done. And you can click into scprtgrants.com. Please note that is different from SCPRT. There are two different websites. So it's scprtgrants.com. And I am actually going to show you how to get there through, let's go to our website. So we have resources on this is SouthCarolina250.com. This is the commission's website. If you're going at it through this way, you can go to resources, grants, and this is a place where you can read all kinds of stuff about the premier, major, monthly organizing grants. And then here's more information about all the different types. Click on any of these types. Scroll down to the section on how to apply. And you can go to register with the SCPO. Of course, it's not going to work. So it's supposed to link right here to the right, and I'll make sure that gets changed. So a lot of things moved when we created our new website. So let me go to this one. We're going to go down to how to apply. There we go. It's red. And that takes you to the Discover South Carolina scprtgrants.com. And this is where you would register. If you have not registered yet, click here to register. Fill out all your personal information. It's very important to put SC250 so that it comes to me. I get notified that you've registered. Also, if you are not, if you're just an individual doing this, make sure that you put individual. That way, if you put anything else, if you represent a nonprofit organization, if you put nonprofit there, it's going to require you have your federal EIN number. So it's probably best when you register just to put individual. And then save your registration after you do I'm Not a Robot, save registration information. It should then process. You will have to wait for one of us to approve the registration. That just keeps us from having duplicates in the system. We don't really keep anybody else out. All right, now we're going to check out, so let's see, there it goes, what it looks like to sign in. So let's see if I can remember. There we go. All right, so this is what you're going to get when you sign into the Discover SC Web Grants program. You're going to go to My Reviews, which is under the dashboard, and applications to be reviewed. So this is my test one that we're going to do together. One of the things that I like to do when I review is look at this is your application here on the left. As I scroll down, it's a little hard to read on that because it's so skinny. What I like to do is print to PDF. And it's going to take a second, but it'll pull up. So this is a larger version of the application. You can also, oops, let's minimize that. Let's go full screen there. All right. You can also make this a little bit. You can zoom in onto this. Let's see. There we go. You can, and that helps me look at this in a larger screen. If you want to print this, you can, but what I would warn you is that it prints all the attachments as well. So what you want to do is look at 6, of 10. You want to print just 10 pages because if you get beyond 10 pages, you're going to get, let's see, as we scroll past, like letters of support. You're going to get all the attachments will be at the end. So you want to make sure that you're just printing however many pages there are in the application. If you want to print it, you don't have to print it. You don't even have to pull it up this way. I just find it easier to look at a larger version of the application and read through the whole thing before I go in to do my scoring. So we are going to let's actually walk through what's on here. So let me make this big again. Okay. So you'll see who the applicant is, the organization's name. You're going to see who the project director is, and this is where if you have any conflict, because oh gosh, I didn't realize my cousin is, the fiscal officer for this applicant. This is where you might come across that. You'll have an authorizing officer if someone has to approve them spending the money. Then you get into the narrative, and this is the real meat of the application. Your project summary is like your elevator speech, and you can see it even describe all the instructions print on here, so you can see what they see when they go to fill it out. And then the next question is about the Revolutionary Era. And this is where they can put their Carolina Day menu item that they are applying under if they're not strictly 1770 to 1783. So maybe they're going to have a general patriotic concert, but it's not all going to be music from the Revolutionary Era. Some of it might be, all the military, songs for all the military units or divisions. So, or maybe they're going to have, music of South Carolina over 250 years. They're going to have some jazz from the Jenkins or orchestra orphanage, and you're going to have some, bluegrass from the mountains or something. So you might have some other things might fall under the Carolina Days application, and this is where they can talk about that. And that would be eligible again now through May. This is where you're going to find some county data. So we're trying to spread the love all over the state. Obviously, we're tracking that when you saw the map earlier. This is the county. This tier 2 is going to tell you how many battles and skirmishes happened there. So we're going to spend more money in Charleston and Kershaw County because they had more events or more significant events. And that's going to be, you're going to see tier 4 with the most need of assistance and tier 1 counties in the least. So keep that in mind. This is for actually for the tax credit. So tier 4 has the most number of battles and skirmishes. Tier 1 would have the least number of battles and skirmishes. And then on this next number, this 1 tells you that this county needs the least amount of assistance. They're doing fine. They don't have a lot of unemployment in Aiken County. Because part of what we want to do is encourage economic development and tourism and things to grow these counties. So that tells you, they might need to have a little more support than Charleston would because Charleston's got really good unemployment rates, really low right now, that kind of thing. This also tells you if they've received prior funding, again, trying to spread the love. This county has only received $3,000 before their organizing grant, but another group, we've given a ton of money in Kershaw County now, so maybe we need to spread the love a little bit more. So that'll tell you that there. This tells you what type of grant activity, and this is under execution of plan. And this is really the only place on this application where the type of grant changes the answers. And under the execution of plan, when you have local activities grant, it's going to give you a list of projects that are eligible under that. And so this example gives you art project selected from this menu. And there is an other where you can define it. And then these are the questions that a local activity grant execution of plan should address. So again, these are going to be different depending on what type of grant they're applying for. So read these questions here will inform what should be in this execution of plan answer. Then we have scholars and peer review, promotion. If you cut the tree down in the forest and nobody's there, who's going to know that you had a lecture, that kind of thing. And then deliverables. This is the most important section, in my opinion, on the narrative. This is what gets, if approved, would get copied directly into their contract that they would sign with the SC250. So we prefer that people up do, for example, one, they list out their deliverables. They are saying at the end of the day, we are going to have these things accomplished. And some of them do it like we say and do one, two, three, four, and some don't, but that's okay. So do look for are these clear deliverables that are achievable with the budget that they have proposed. Measurement of success. So how are we proving that this, moved the needle at all? What kind of attendance did you have? What are you going to measure? And so they're saying they're going to measure social media interaction and clicks on the web page and feedback from participants. Inclusion. So this is a very important section, and the commission is very dedicated to telling the more complete story of the American Revolution. And there's several categories that fall under this. Obviously, the underrepresented African Americans, Native Americans, women and children. Those stories get bonus points here. But also, if you are telling the story of loyalists, which often get overlooked. And we had a lot of loyalists in South Carolina during this time period. That's the reason it was such a bloody battle in the backcountry, particularly. And also, are you getting outside your normal, historian group at the museum? Are you address maybe doing an event in Spanish? Are you going out and putting out flyers in Korean in the Korean restaurant? I don't know. Like there are other ways you can be more inclusive for your community. Are you doing, and we've got one group doing a special um, reading for the deaf, an event for the deaf, particularly. That's going to be accommodations for that. Are you doing sensory accommodations for your exhibit? Maybe having a special day where you come in early and it's quiet, and all those kinds of things would fall under inclusion. But then we also have participation and access. We have engagement. Obviously public money needs public access. We've got to address that. And then engagement is, do they have a takeaway? Is there a place for them to learn more on a website? Or is video being captured so it can be shared across the state? Those kinds of things. Then longevity and lasting impact. Um, this is really an important, aspect. We don't want it to be just one day. So this is longevity question. And here's where you'll find your partnerships. And these are the bonus points that you can earn on your on the application. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Planning and timetable. Is this realistic? They don't have to have a ton here. We ask them to do at least 3. Does it make sense? Sometimes they are out of order by date. I don't know why the system doesn't sort it, but if you put them in later, sometimes it puts it at a different spot. But then assurances and certifications. This basically said I read all of your CYA material and I agree to those terms. And the terms are: you're going to meet with me before you start spending money. You're not going to hire somebody who's a disbarred person. You're not going to somebody who's in bad standing with the state. Those are kind of the things that are on that assurances and certifications that they are testifying to. We've got to make sure that they have, quote unquote, signed that section. And then here are your support materials. The first attachment, again, is not required, but we do like for the County 250 letter of support to be here, or at least letter of notification that they have notified their County 250 and they're in the loop. Sometimes the applicant is the County 250, so you won't see a letter there because they already know. So that's the first attachment. The 3 things that are required on all grants are this W-9, current budget, and last year's financial statement. That's what the check mark means. These are required to complete it. If they are a nonprofit, they have to complete these things here. And then we have lots of other requireds here, but they're required for specific grant types. So you don't have to really worry about most of these unless you can find, if it's a site acquisition, there's lots more paperwork you have to turn in. So these things here only are based on this header here. So required for that. Additional potential support documents, you can include those things, but not required. And then sometimes they'll put master plans, or they'll put their one-sheeters or quotes from the vendors will be under additional support documentation. And then the last section you'll read here is the budget. And they can have administrative overhead no more, and the commission really doesn't like it, but they will accept up to 20% of the ask be administrative costs. So you can see that under personnel should be the staff of the museum, or that should be someone who works for the organization. Contractual will be down here under this section here, and this is where you hire somebody to do your web design or your research or your writing or your graphic design. That's the difference between personnel and contractual. There's supplies and all kinds of section here. Let's see, acquisition you probably won't use, other expenses. So then this section here is the cost share matching funds breakdown. Again, the major grants are required to have at least 20% of their total budget, not 20% of their ask, but 20% of their total budget, and it'll tell you the percentage down here. So major grants of 15,001 plus to 125,000 have to have a 20% match, and those with premier projects of over 125,000 have to have a 25% match. And it'll show up here what their percentage is. Everything above cost share is what they are asking SC250 for. And then this is the remainder of the budget of the project is covered under the cost share. All right, so that is an overview of what the application looks like. Now let's talk about, you've looked it over, you've read the application, now you want to do your review. So you have your internal review, or sometimes it'll show up as review with scoring. This is where this on the right here is going to, you can click on review with scoring. And now you'll see, you can scroll down and you'll see where you put in your totals. So your project summary is going to be what is really your overview, that it's based on that elevator speech. Do you think this project is worthy? And this, I like to leave this one until I've read the whole application and come back to this one. But this is up to 20 points. This is basically, do I think this is really worthy? Then the next section is that execution of plan. And remember, I told you that based on which grant type they choose, there will be different criteria for this execution of plan. So we've got museum, we've got local activities. These are giving you all those things to remember. So you just look through those questions to look at the execution of plan. And then you put your number here. So that is up to 15 for the execution of plan. The next one is, do they have a good timeline? Do they demonstrate, or do they talk about what kind of promotion they're going to include? Do they have, does the budget seem reasonable? And the impact, go back up to that section that talks about the tax credit. Would it have an impact on their community if they had a new pull off, or a new park in their community? Would that make a difference? So would that be an impact to their community more so in one county than another? Project deliverables. So this is those, what are they going to say that they have at the end of the day? The sharing the voice. This is our inclusion question. Public access, public money, public access, engagement plan, longevity, and then here's where you put the bonus points for the partnerships. And this last section is not in red, so it is not required, but I highly encourage you to use it. Do you have questions? What doesn't make sense? What does make sense? You think it's a really good plan. I'm really in support of this one. Tell me all that kind of stuff. This really helps us when we go through the due diligence process. As we sit with our executive director, our CEO, we talk with her about these comments that you make. And this also will be submitted to on the major and premier projects will be submitted to the commissioners. It will not say who said what, but it will be turned over to the commissioners. And I will tell you that means it's foiable. So actually, all of this is foiable, but that it does mean it's foiable. So we want to make this constructive criticism because it could potentially be shown to the grantee in this section. But it is, again, we do not say who said what. But it is very helpful when we go through due diligence and could help that applicant because if we're just confused about a section or we didn't really understand how this was going to work, they can clarify that during due diligence and it could help their application. That's the hope. We want everybody to have a good application, and this is one way that we can do that. So I highly encourage you to put comments here. Once you do that, I may have to just save it. I might have to actually put stuff in here. So give me a second and let me label them because they're required. They're red. They're going to make me fill this out to submit it. This is such a great application. It's going to get full credit. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you kind of those matrix that we have given you some more guidelines of what a 1 might be, what a 2 might be, what a 3 might be on each one of these. We have a little more walkthrough of that. And then I'm going to say, great application. All right. Submit. So once you submit, you'll see that this has turned green. Review is in compliance and is ready for submission. Submit review. This pop-up comes up and you submit and it takes you back to my reviews and you now no longer have any reviews to do. So you have completed your review of that application. So it's all done in the Web Grants program. And again, I'm going to pull up, let's see, yep. We're going to send you these instructions for the review team, and it will walk you through step by step how to do that, what we just did on the demo. And one of the things that it will show you, and I'm going to scroll down to one of the sections, gives you an overview. And then here it is for the project summary total. So under project summary scoring matrix, if responses do not provide any information for the criteria, a 1 through 4, the responses are not fully formed. A 5 through 8, the description is weak and only partially developed. So this kind of gives you more breakdown of what numbers would mean for each one of these matrix under the scores. So you can have this on another screen or print it out if you want to as you go through and think about each one of your answers. So this is execution of plan. Again, you're going to have different questions for execution of plan based on the type of grant that you are seeing before you. And, responses address the criteria clearly. All points to consider that are listed under that grant type have been approved or are in their explanation. The plan for accuracy by using scholars and due diligence and peer review of interpretation is clear. So all of that is listed. You'll have a matrix for each one of the scores that you give that kind of walks you through what each one of those will look like. And we'll send that as a follow-up to this meeting, as well as sending you this conflict of interest policy that you'll sign by Adobe Sign to make you official as a reviewer. So I think we're going to go back here. And I just wanted to put up our contact information. If it'll work. It's very confused. There it is. Okay. So that's our contact information. If you have questions or concerns, make sure you reach out and let us know. And we can be glad to walk you through any of these processes, and any kind of clarification that you need is great. So if everybody has that, then I am going to stop sharing and open up to questions. Does anybody have any questions? I did a great job. Wow. I'll give a few more minutes. And we do have Ayana on here who has been a grant reviewer in the past. Ayana, do you want to unmute yourself and make any comments about what you've seen and what is what you're looking for when you go through the grant process? Sorry to put you on the spot. Maybe she's not there. She may have stepped away from her desk. But okay. Karina, do you want to add anything as someone who does the now the we have multiple grant reviews going on at once. You'll have the paperwork review that either Karina or myself will do. You'll have our CEO does a review. Brad Sauls with SC250 does a review, and this external review that you guys do all happens kind of at the same time. Karina, is there something that you're always looking for when you do reviews that you want to mention?
I would say that the longevity portion, how it can live beyond the 1 day, that's been something that the commissioners really look at. And then a detailed budget. So if they can just provide more than a single line saying they're spending the $15,000 on one particular thing, that really helps us know where the funds are going to go. So if you do notice that they're not providing a detailed budget, just put that in your comments. It helps us reach
Would
back
like to
out
see
to them.
more
And
details
yeah,
on the comments, concerned about it living beyond 1 day. What are some good examples of how people who are having a 1 day event get beyond that 1 day factor? How do they help live beyond that?
so we've seen people record, if they're doing a play, then they'll record the play and then post it, on YouTube or some sort of other website where people can access it. Maybe they create like a lesson plan to go with it for teachers, that sort of thing. So, or like if it's an exhibit, maybe it's a traveling exhibit that can go across the state. So those are just some ways that we can make sure that it's going beyond that single day event
Great
or
answer.
staying in that
Okay.
one county. So
I told you she knows her stuff. So, and she knows the system backwards and forwards. So please reach out to either one of us. I'm H. Hawkins at SouthCarolina250.com, and Karina is Grants at SouthCarolina250.com. So look for emails from us, and look for that Adobe sign, and look for emails from the system when you're assigned a review. Catherine, you had a question?
I'm just, if you could do a quick example of the difference between the engagement and the longevity, because that sounded a little bit the same to me.
Okay. So engagement usually means a takeaway. So like if you're going to have a lecture, are you going to provide um, examples of where people can learn more, or like
Okay.
a book list, or here are some other events coming up in the community, a way to continue the conversation. You'll see in education, it might be like I said, a lesson plan, or so how do you? We did a grant where we bought books called Courageous Kate, Sheila Ingalls book, and they put those in the fourth grade, all the fourth grade classes in Spartanburg County. And Sheila, instead of having that be just that one, okay, put it in the library, it's done. Sheila, bless her, because she has passed now, but she was a lovely lady and created a teacher guide, how to use this book in your classroom. And so how does it match the standards? So how does, those kinds of things. So that was a nice add-on engagement piece, that just is not handing them books and it goes and gets filed in the library and somebody discovers it, years later.
Okay. So it also sounds like they're a little bit linked too, in a
They
way.
are. They are. They
Okay.
are.
Well, thank you. That's helpful.
Hmm. All right. And you can actually, if you want to look at, I'm going to share one more time to show one more thing I wanted to, and we're going to work on, Farina and I are going to work on getting this updated. But if you go to our website, SouthCarolina250.com, resources, grants, you can also, if you scroll down, this is by no means as all the grants that we've given out. I don't know what this map means, but anyway, we're working on updating some of this. View previous grants awarded. So you have every grant up to a certain point. We've got to get caught up, but you can look at all the grants that were given out last fiscal year. It tells you the amount, who was received it, and what was the title. Doesn't give you a lot of details, but at least it gives you some ideas of previously approved grants. So that's something that you can also look at. All right. Anything else? Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It could not do this program without all the wonderful reviewers. It really makes a difference when you write those comments. It helps us so much, help define what's missing or what going to make one be better than another when we go to make these awards. And when we go to present paperwork to our commissioners, it really helps them to see some of these due diligence questions answered. And that's all because of our reviewers. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Wonderful. All right. I'll see you guys soon. Okay. All right. Bye.